I am joined by my friend Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hello, Andy. How are you today?
I'm fine in a new position in it. We're trying a new studio for recording. It's a little bit weird. My desk isn't here. It's all a bit strange, but it's all fine. We're all good.
I understand. I'm in a garage, so I feel your pain, brother. I feel your pain.
It's all fine. You could check out a very, very, very unexciting background for me. It's just white wall, or is it magnolia or cream ivory? I don't know.
Well,
It's
nothing to distract us, my friend. You know,
absolutely nothing whatsoever. So, what's been going on in the world of plugged in the last week then?
we have an interesting and diverse set of things that we can talk about today. The first one I want to talk about is a really interesting movie that is out called Rule Breakers. This is produced by the American production company Angel Studios, and they've done a number of things. They did the Cabrini movie, they did The Sound of Freedom, those sorts of things. The interesting thing about this is a really international story. It is a story about four Afghan teenage girls who get recruited to be a part of a robotics team that will compete in robotics competitions around the world. It's based on a true story. And they have an older woman who is a mentor. Her name is Roya. And Roya really wants to inspire the next generation of girls. And if you know anything about Islam and the fundamentalist expressions of it, in Afghanistan with the Taliban, they're not real big on granting women freedom to do things like that. And so Roya is really kind of a pioneering crusader. And in fact, at one point, one of the most intense scenes in the movie, they try to take her out, they try to kill her and assassinate her. And let's stop and think about that for a moment. A country where they're trying to assassinate a teacher for teaching girls math and electronic skills. But they don't do that. And they managed to take these girls overseas to a number of competitions, including one in the United States. And they don't want to just participate; they want to win. And so it's really fun to see these young girls, and they all have their own battles to face as well, as you can imagine, in a culture that, for the most part, is not on board with young women doing things like this. So, completely set in a Muslim context. It's not a Christian movie at all, but a very, I think, pretty wholesome movie. A little bit of language, that threat of violence comes up. But it feels like, your traditional underdog movie. It's not, technically a sports movie, but it kind of has that underdog sports movie vibe. And one of the girls' creations is a remote minesweeper. And so we see how they're trying to apply their skills to create something that can really make a difference in their context. So really nice under the radar film. And this is kind of the time of year where we get stuff like this, right? Because there's not a lot of competition for eyeballs right now. So Rule Breakers is the name of this one.
Okie dokie. Where else are we going to go?
Well, and now for something completely different, as our friends from Monty Python said for many years, we are doing something this week called the Screen Fast 2025. It's not a challenge, but it's just Screen Fast 2025. And if you go to pluggedin.com and scroll down just a little bit, you can click on that. And if you sign up for that, we're going to send you 8 days of activities, really to encourage you to consider taking a break as a family from your screens. And it started on March 7th, which was actually in the United States National Unplugging Day, which I didn't know. And it's also Lent right now. So we're sort of piggybacking on, a lot of different expressions of the Christian faith. Celebrate or engage with Lent, which often involves fasting from something. So we want it to be a resource to help you and your family really get a grip on this whole screen time thing. And that is the dominant issue that families say they're grappling with these days. And tell you what, I'm right there with them with three teenagers. So we hope this can be a catalyst for conversation and maybe for changing some habits in your family.
I don't know whether you stand on this one. I saw a joke quite a while ago, and it was how does the mum get the family to know that it's time for dinner? Turns off the Wi-Fi. And
Right.
I sort of immediately laugh and think, well, okay, that's kind of funny and it makes a point,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But actually, I don't know what your thoughts about it. It's a very passive aggressive way, I
Right.
suspect, of trying to get people's attention. And perhaps there are other ways. What are your thoughts on that
Yeah.
one?
Well, I think it's about intentionality, right? I think the challenge for us as parents, as anybody living in this culture today, is to move from being passive consumers to being actively engaged. And let's face it, there's nothing that invites passive, mindless consumption like a smartphone. You pick it up to check whatever it is you're interested. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, the whole short form video world, YouTube, or maybe you're a businessman and you're wanting to see what the markets are doing, or you're into sports and you want to see what Manchester United over there, or yeah, the Denver Broncos are doing. And right now we're in draft season, so I'm checking mock drafts every day. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter at all, but I'm interested in it, right? And that's the nature of the rabbit hole that we call the internet. You can go down forever, but is that really the best stewardship of your time and your energy? And so I think coming about it from that way, as opposed to too much screen time is bad, let's turn it all off. I think instead coming at it from the perspective of how can we set appropriate boundaries, and how can we agree as a family and really strive to create a family culture that says, yeah, that's fun, but there are some other things that we want to devote our attention and our time to that might ultimately have a more redemptive purpose. So that's how I would come at it. And I think, especially if you've got teenagers, I think involving them in that process as opposed to just pronouncing, and now here are the changes mom and dad are making, right? They likely won't respond well to that. But I think that if you can engage them in conversation and saying, hey, what would you say are some reasonable boundaries? Because I think we can all admit, if we're willing to be honest, we spend too much time on our phones. Let's live differently. Let's live in a countercultural way, because it really is a countercultural thing these days.
Very much so. Mobile phones are everything. I get very annoyed that if I want to log into a bank or a particular website, I have to have a mobile phone sitting next to me
Yeah,
so I can get my one-time password so I can
right.
put that in to get in.
No, it's
Like,
crazy.
seriously, can I not be the one that's responsible for people hacking into my stuff and get rid of this
Right,
OTP one-time password? But it's creating a requirement not to ever not know where your phone is, because if I want to log in, well, I'm
right,
going to have my phone right there, switched on, ready by me, because you've only got so many seconds and all the rest of it. And
right.
even, using the internet responsibly, you're
Yep,
forced to have a mobile phone in front of you all the time.
yep. And mine's right there. So I'm not going to argue with you.
Nope, not at all. Where else are we going to go then?
There is a new show on Disney Plus, Daredevil Born Again. And no, this is not a Christian show. Daredevil, of course, is a character in the Marvel Universe. His name is Matt Murdock. He is a blind lawyer with kind of super powered, almost like he's not Batman, but he's got like, Batman like echolocation. So even though he literally can't see, he sort of sees through echolocation. And if you watch the first iteration of the Daredevil TV show, which was on Netflix for a number of years, you know that his primary nemesis is Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Well, now Wilson Fisk says he's changed his ways and he's now the mayor of New York, but Matt Murdock doesn't quite buy it. So they are sort of forming an uneasy truce, and we'll see if Mr. Fisk, if the Kingpin, can make good on that. This is in some ways what we would expect from Marvel, but it over here is rated TVMA, so it's the equivalent of probably the highest level of restriction content wise. There's
Well,
a ton of profanity, there's a ton of violence. It's pretty gritty. So if you're used to Marvel movies and you just sort of stumble into this and say, "Oh, cool, a new Marvel thing," you might be a little bit shocked that this is not a show for kids. And that's probably the biggest thing you want to be aware of if this is something that you're just finding out about and looks interesting to you.
That is interesting in terms of we have something we're familiar with, something that sort of spawns off the side of it, but really, really is not like it, even though maybe it's one of the characters, but all of a
Yep.
sudden, I guess they're freed from the restrictions of Marvel, who are, I suppose, genuinely trying to make more family wide friendly movies, as
Yeah.
opposed to something where we can really press down a particular alleyway.
Yeah, that's right. And Marvel, I think, and Disney have realized there are two separate but overlapping audiences here. For a long time, we had some of that grittier stuff that was on Netflix. We had Jessica Jones, we had Power Man, I believe, had a series, and all of that was definitely in that MA kind of territory. And Marvel's like, yeah, no, we want all of that now. And we're just going to do stuff that hits different audiences differently. But it all shows up on Disney Plus. And when Disney Plus started, it really was aimed at families. And now, especially with the integration of Hulu into Disney Plus, there's just as much nasty stuff on Disney Plus as any other streaming platform. And we really have to pay attention.
We really, really do. Don't make assumptions. Check out Plugged In. Have you got one more for us?
I'm going to do sort of a speed round because this is a little bit of a horse of a different color. We have gone back and done a couple classic movies about Jesus and about faith since we're in Lent and we're coming up on Easter. We did The Robe, which I think came out in like 1953 or 54. Yeah, 1953. And then we did the Jesus film, which Campus Crusade did in the late 70s and has been seen by hundreds of millions of people. And then we did a Robert De Niro film called The Mission, which, if you've never seen The Mission, wow, it's a pretty intense movie based on a true story and a mission in South America. So we're trying to go back and get some of those classic faith-oriented films, and especially right now during Easter season, we had a little bit of extra time. We thought, you know what, we're going to hit those. So you'll find the full reviews of all of those classic films and lots more at pluggedin.com.
Fantastic, Adam. Thank you. Pluggedin.com. Indeed, if you want to have the full reviews of what you've heard, or you want to go and find your films, I do use Plugged In an awful lot. Search bar, stick in the name of a film, realize I spelt it wrong, go back again and have a look at the review. Is normally what I do.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And if you ever have search problems, I'm going to just quietly confess our search engine on the site is a little bit wonky. I would just do pluggedin.com and then do a space and then whatever you're looking for. And that other larger search engine that I won't name probably will do a better job of finding it on our site. We're trying to get some of those search kinks ironed out, but every now and then I'm like, man, I know we reviewed this. So anyway, just a helpful insider tip on that.
Thank you, Sir Adam. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you again next week for more.
Sounds great. Thanks, Andy.
Pure Media, the magazine, is hand perfected with some of the finest writers from around the world that we could find. And yes, Andy B too. New editions are released just for you on the first Friday of every month, from our family to your family. Pure Media, the magazine, is available now. Sign up for free at puremediafamily.com/magazine.